Okay, in the second part of our Evaluating the Expression slideshow, we're going to start now with our guided practice. So I'm going to walk you through this like I've done before, following order of operations. So the first thing you need to do is take out every single letter and put in its known value using parentheses. Don't make any other changes to the problem, just replacing those letters with their known values. You then follow order of operations and now take care of any power that you see. So one number in the parenthesis, look for the power. Remember to put it into factored form for those who are struggling a bit with exponents, to show that number instead of 3 squared. If that's the number, then you're showing it as 3 times 3. So put it into factored form so you can multiply it out carefully. Then look in front of your parenthesis to see if there's something that's multiplied to it. And if there is, multiply that value. And then lastly, only across the top, add or subtract, get one number. Then in the denominator, add or subtract, get one number. And then lastly, divide your values. Okay, so let's look at this example together. We're going to start off, we have lots of y's here, and you'll notice that y is 4, but I do have one x, which gives me x at 2. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to take out the y, and we're going to replace it with 4. Everything else is written the same. In the next part, we're going to take out the y, and using parentheses, replace it with a 4. And then we have that plus 20. In the bottom, we're going to replace the y again and put in a 4. So we have 4 squared, minus, and then we're going to take out the x and put in its value, which is a 2. But no other changes are being made at this point in time. So then from there, we need to say, I have one number in all of my parentheses. So what I have to do now is look for an outside power. And 3 of my 4 parentheses that I put in have powers that I need to take care of. Remember again, the base of 4 is seen twice using multiplication. So that first one, 4 squared, becomes 4 times 4, which is 16. Now the second parenthesis didn't have a power, so I'm going to keep it the same as what it was. In the bottom, we have another 4 times 4 for 16, and then we have a 2 times 2 for 4. So at this point in time, building on, what we're now working to do is take care of any multiplication. So we go to the front, and you'll notice that the 3 is being multiplied to the 16 here. And 3 times 16 is 48. You'll notice that the negative 2 is being multiplied to the positive 4, and a negative 2 times 4 is a negative 8. And again, remember, we're writing what we say. And on the bottom, 16 take away 4 is 12. Still working with the top to work to get one number. 48 take away 8, left go right, don't forget that please. 48 take away 8 is 40, and 40 plus 20 to get one number in the top is 60. And now that I have one number in the top and one number in the bottom, I can divide, and 60 divided by 12 is 5. Another way to go through this, if you're not a fan of fraction, is say 12 times what number gets me to 60, to kind of think backwards. And sometimes for students that's a little bit easier to go through. All right, our next example, we're seeing that z is negative 2. So the first thing, again, make sure you're just doing this on your own. You're going to pluck out every z and put in negative 2. Don't make any other changes, just using parentheses, pluck out z and put in negative 2. Following order of operations, now that we have one number in our parentheses, we're going to look for our exponents. You're going to stretch it out like I showed you in the previous clip, using multiplication, and actually say what that result is. And there are 3 powers in this problem that you have to do that with. Be careful of the fact that it's a negative 2. Then you're going to look in front and say, is there anything there to multiply to it? And if there's not, you can just get rid of the parentheses. If there is, take that multiplication. And then lastly, you're going to add or subtract. Again, remember, because I caught some of you on the order of operation worksheet, go left to right. All right, let's look at this problem. We're starting off and z is -2. So using parentheses, we pluck out every single z that we see and we replace it with -2. Notice I'm not making any other changes, just replacing the z with -2 and using parentheses. So here we've gone from a numerical expression to a variable expression. At this point in time, we're going to look at this and we're going to take the -2 and we're going to put it into factored form. We're going to take a -2 and we're going to write it the exponential number of times. So -2 times -2, an even number of negatives, is 4. And then we have another -2 times -2, which is also 4, and 4 times 4, which is 16. So -2 to the 4th, an even number of negatives, makes it positive 16. Doing the next thing with the next parenthesis, so I'm going to show the plus, we have a -2 times a -2 times a -2. So a -2 times -2 is 4, and 4 times the -2, because there's none other to group there, one negative gives me a negative. 4 times 2 is 8. Added to that, there's an outside 2, and now I'm going to take the second or the third parenthesis and go -2 times -2, which is positive 4. And I'm going to keep that in parentheses because there's still an outside number there. In front of the last parenthesis, there is no power, but in front there's that subtract sign that says let's take the opposite sign of a -2, which is a positive 2. So the next action that we're going to take is to finish this parenthesis and multiply. So I have 16 plus a -8 plus 8 plus 2, and then -3 or subtract 3. So at this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to look and we're going to go left to right. Some of you might remember the opposites, that we have a -8 and a positive 8, and as opposites, they get back to 0. They're the same distance away from 0, so they undo each other and get back to 0. And if you recognize that, it shortens your problem, so as we go left to right, I just have 16 plus 2, which is 18, and 18 take away 3, which is 15. So our next examples are our self-checks. Remember to pause the video, try the problem yourself, and then check it with my answer once we do it out. So here's our next example, example 6, self-check. Pause the video right now and try the problem yourself. All right, first thing we're going to do is notice that there is already a parenthesis there, so I'm going to make that one a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to pluck out this z and I'm going to use a smaller parenthesis and put in 3, just to differentiate between the two. I'm going to pluck out x and I'm going to put in its known value of 2, and then I'm going to pluck out the y and put in its value of a 4. And at this point in time, what we're going to do is try to get one number in the parentheses. So with this inner small parenthesis, notice there's no power, and notice there's nothing in front of that inside of the parenthesis that's going to change it. So ultimately I have 3 plus 1, which is 4. And I'll just rewrite that first step of getting that one number inside of the parentheses. Now in our order of operation class, many of you wanted to cancel at this point, but remember that the fraction bar says one number in the top, one number in the bottom, then you divide. So we have to handle exponents now for each of these and work to get one number in the top before I can cancel. So 4 squared, again factored form, is 4 times 4, which is 16. 2 to the 4th is a 2 shown 4 times, which I'll put up above the example. And remember that we said 2 to the 4th was 16, and because it's positive, it stays positive. And then we have 4 squared in the bottom, which is 4 times 4 as well. Now we're still working to get one number on the top, so 16 plus 16, I'll come down below here, is 32. And 32 divided by 16 is a beautiful number, 2, for our final answer. So the answer for that self-check is 2. For our last example, again, pause the video, try it on your own, and then compare your answers to mine once you're done. Here we have evaluate if A is 3, B is 1, and C is -5. Again, using parentheses, pluck out A, put in 3, and keep everything else the same. Then we're going to pluck out C and put in a -5, but keep everything else the same. Then I have a +3, and in parentheses, I'm going to pluck out A and put in 3. I'm going to pluck out B and put in 1, and I'm going to pluck out C and put in a -5. And so at this point in time, we've gone from a variable expression to a numerical expression. Order of operations, say exponents next. So the first parenthesis we see, since it has one number inside, I'm going to take that base of a 3 and I'm going to expand it using multiplication, and 3 times 3 is 9. I'm going to look at the next parenthesis, which is a -5, so I have one number inside, and I'm going to handle the exponent next. Exponents must come next. So -5 times -5 is a +25. Now notice that I carried that subtract sign down front, and I'll deal with that later on. Lastly, here's the plus. There are no powers, so I have here a 3 times a 3 times a 1 times a -5. So all exponents are done at this point. Now I need to handle my multiplication. And the only ones that have any concerns or worries is this last piece that are all multiplied together. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 1 is 9, and 9 times 5 is 45. But you'll notice that we had one negative, so ultimately it's a -45 that we're looking at. So at this point we have a +9, but I have a -25 and a -45. So I'm going to add those two together. I'm going to carry it over, so I have 9, and I end up with 9 take away 70. Signs are different, so 70, which is negative, take away 9 gives me 61, but the larger absolute is negative, so my final answer is -61. And that concludes the lesson on evaluate the expression.